You open your eyes, but it's not morning. Not really. The air is thick, heavier than dreams, carrying a warm, rotten breath that settles into your skin. You can feel it before you can fully wake, that blend of sweat, oil, and something metallic. The faintest trace of blood, perhaps. You don't move right away. You listen. Somewhere nearby, someone is snoring. Somewhere farther, someone is coughing. Deeper still, you hear the low groan of wooden beams straining under the weight of bodies stacked above you. This place was built to hold men like you, not gently. Your fingers find the edge of a straw mattress beneath you, if you can even call it that. It crackles softly under your touch. It smells like old wool, damp hay, and other lives that once tried to sleep here before you. Fleas, lice, perhaps even a few forgotten teeth. You wouldn't be surprised. Your back itches. Your bones ache. Your mouth tastes like old copper. And in the silence between these sounds, a question drifts softly through your head. What if history never even remembers your name? Not because you were unimportant, but because you were ordinary. Because you were one of many, one of hundreds, one of thousands. Men swallowed whole by this great heaving beast called Rome. You blink again. The faintest light slips through a crack in the stone wall. Moonlight, thin as a blade, cutting through the dusty air. You're underground, of course, under the amphitheater, under the arena, under the roaring, stomping, cheering weight of Rome itself. A gladiator, that's what they call you. But you know better. You're not a hero. You're not a warrior by choice. You are a man bought, trained, branded, and dressed like a trophy animal for the entertainment of those whose sandals will never touch this dirt. Your name doesn't matter to them. You're a body, a blood offering, a brief moment of applause before dinner. You feel your hand brush against the cold iron of your helmet nearby. The metal is dented, bent slightly where it shouldn't be. You ran your head into another man's shield last week. It still hurts to chew. You smile faintly at the memory, the kind of humor that's only funny because you're still breathing. Tomorrow, you'll step out again. You'll see the blinding light above, hear the deafening cheers, feel the sharp sand beneath your feet, and you'll smile. Because you have learned to smile when they want you to. That's part of the game. The people love a show. Even when you're starving, even when your joints burn from training, even when your skin crawls with infections from yesterday's wounds, you were not always this man. Once you sold bread, or maybe you farmed olives. Maybe you carried jars for a merchant whose name you've almost forgotten. That life is distant now, soft, blurry, like a dream you only half remember. Then came the debt, or the betrayal, or the raid, or just
the morning doesn't arrive so much as creep in, like a nervous servant afraid to wake the master. You feel it first in your bones, the cold dampness of stone giving way to the soft, stale warmth of too many bodies breathing the same sour air. Your eyelids resist, but the world pries them open anyway. There is no sunrise here, only a pale gray smear of light leaking down the narrow shaft above. That tiny square of sky, far away, unreachable, reminds you that you are underground. You hear the chains before you see them, metal on stone, a low, tired clatter. The door creaks. A heavy voice follows, scraping against the silence like a dull blade. Up. Training waits. You sit up slowly. The straw clings to your skin like little fingers. Your body aches, but it always aches. You glance at the others as they stir, one by one. Faces hollowed by hunger, eyes dulled by repetition. Some scratch at scabbed wounds. Others quietly check their limbs, counting fingers, testing joints. The morning ritual of the not yet dead. The lanista steps inside. His tunic is cleaner than yours, his sandals better made. His face carries the permanent sneer of a man who owns men. He doesn't shout. He doesn't have to. The whip tucked under his arm speaks plenty. You rise, your knees crack. The simple act of standing feels like defiance. You're alive, and that, in Rome, is always defiance. The corridor smells of sweat and vinegar. Old bloodstains mark the stones. You follow the line of bodies toward the training yard. The others shuffle beside you. Tall Gauls, wiry Syrians, North Africans with quiet eyes, Greeks who curse softly in their sleep. You all share this place now, a collection of men who should have lived 100 different lives, farmers, traders, fathers, but instead march toward wooden swords and blunted spears. The training yard waits like an open mouth. Above, the city hums, faint, distant, as senators argue over dinner parties and merchants haggle over spices. But here, beneath the bright sky, nothing is gentle. The sand is coarse beneath your feet, coarser still when mixed with yesterday's sweat and drops of blood. The air smells of oil, leather, and faintly of urine, where nervous boys lost control before their first match. You fall into formation. The drills begin. The wooden sword, heavier than it looks, finds your grip. You swing, block, thrust. Repeat. The same movements drilled into your muscles until they blur into something resembling skill. The doctore watches you with his hawk eyes. He was once like you, before too many scars, too many victories. Now he trains. Now he survives. Lower your stance, he growls. You adjust. You don't speak. Speaking draws attention. Attention invites punishment. Your partner today is young. Too young. A boy from Hispania, barely sprouted whiskers. His swings are wild, eager. You block them gently, steering him back on balance. In another life, you might have taught your own son this way, if the world had been kind. But Rome is not kind. Rome is efficient. Hours pass. The sun burns higher. The sand grows hotter. Sweat stings your eyes. There is no rest. There are no breaks. Only the faint promise of thin barley gruel waiting after, if the cook isn't in a mood. A loud crack snaps through the air. One of the Thracians has dropped his shield, fumbling with a bad wrist. The doctore's whip finds him instantly, fast, precise. The man grunts, but does not cry out. He knows better. Pain is cheaper than shame here. You resume your drills. Block, thrust, block. The minutes stretch thin. Your stomach growls. You feel the raw edge of hunger digging at your ribs, but you keep your stance, because the alternative is worse. The doctore stops before you, squinting. He nods once. That nod, small as it is, feels like a stolen coin slipped into your hand. It won't feed you, but it might spare you later. By midday, the sun scalds your skin like punishment. You breathe through cracked lips, careful not to waste energy. The air tastes like dust and iron. Finally, the horn blows. The drills pause. For a moment, blessed stillness. You drop your arms to your sides, but your muscles tremble, betraying you. The boy beside you collapses onto the sand, gasping like a drowning man. You let him. There is no use helping him yet. Either he will learn, or Rome will claim him quickly. The lanista watches from the shade. He enjoys this part, seeing which ones might last, which ones are good investments. You are, at least for now, still profitable. A slave shuffles by with a clay jug of water. He doesn't speak. He doesn't meet your eyes. He offers the jug like an offering to a god he fears. The water is warm, slightly bitter, but you drink. You wipe your mouth with the back of your arm and hand the jug down the line. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. You smell the familiar stench of sweat-soaked leather, mingled with the faint sourness of old blood baking in the sun. In the distance, you can hear the muffled roar of the afternoon game.
The sun dips lower. The shadows lengthen like fingers stretching across the training yard. Your body is no longer sore, it's simply numb. Pain fades after the 3rd hour. After the 5th, it becomes something else entirely, a quiet hum beneath your skin, like the distant thrum of bees, constant, unavoidable, but oddly familiar. You adjust your grip again, feeling the rough leather of the practice sword chafing against the calluses that never fully heal. Each blister simply layers itself onto the one before, a living history written into your hands. The dottore watches from a distance, his eyes sharp, his face unreadable. "Good enough," he finally mutters. "Good enough. Not excellent, not impressive, just enough to survive another day." The horn blows again, long and low. The drills stop. You let your arms drop. The silence feels heavy, but sweet. One of the men vomits quietly in the corner, dry heaves scraping against stone. No one reacts. That kind of thing stopped being interesting long ago. The lanista speaks now, voice calm, oily. "Tomorrow," he says, drawing the word out like a blade. "Tomorrow your names are called." No one answers. No one moves. But inside, you feel it, that small, cold twist in your stomach. Tomorrow means the arena. Tomorrow means faces pressed against stone benches, eyes wide, mouths open, waiting for your blood to stain the sand. Tomorrow means the emperor might be watching. Or worse, bored senators looking for something amusing before dinner. You breathe through your nose, slow, controlled. It doesn't help. The lanista continues, pacing slowly along the row of exhausted bodies. Some of you will die. That is expected. That is fine, he smiles. But do not embarrass me. You lower your eyes. It's safer that way. Embarrassment is worse than death here. Embarrassment invites punishment. Punishment invites suffering. And Rome always has new ways to make men suffer. The day's training ends. The men stagger back toward the barracks like broken carts rolling downhill. You trail behind, keeping pace with the Gaul. He says nothing. He rarely speaks. But tonight, as you shuffle side by side, he glances your way. "Do you think we see tomorrow's moon?" he asks, his accent thick, his voice low. You pause. Think. "I don't know," you say softly. "Do you want to?" He smiles without humor. "No." You both walk in silence after that. The barracks wait, dark and heavy. Inside, the air is thicker than before. Sweat hangs like fog. The oil lamps flicker, casting long, nervous shadows across the stone walls. You sit on your same spot, a worn patch of straw that carries the faint smell of mildew and something worse. Someone is crying quietly in the corner. Young, probably. A new arrival. They always cry the first night. Some cry the second. After that, the tears usually stop. You close your eyes and lean your head back against the damp wall. The noises blend together, coughing, breathing, rats scurrying, the faint scrape of chains as men adjust themselves on thin bedding. You feel the weight of the coming day pressing against your chest. You tell yourself not to think about it, but you do. Of course you do. You picture the sand, bright and hot beneath your feet, the roar of the crowd like distant thunder that never stops, the metallic tang of blood in your mouth, the stinging salt of sweat dripping into your eyes, the weight of the gladius in your hand, heavier than any weapon should feel. You picture your opponent. You always do. Will he be stronger, faster, younger? Will his eyes carry fear, or will they burn with the same desperate fury as yours? You've seen men freeze out there, paralyzed by the sheer noise of the crowd. Their slips slip, their feet stumble. The audience laughs, and then the blade comes. Quick, merciless. The arena is not a place for poetry. It's not even a place for justice. It's a stage for appetite, and Rome is always hungry. You press your fingers against the old scar across your ribs, the one that still aches when it rains. That wound nearly ended you last winter. You bled into the sand like a broken wineskin. The medicus whispered that you'd be lucky to see the morning. You saw it anyway. And because you survived, you fight again. That's the deal. The arena rewards survivors with one simple prize, another chance to die. You exhale through your nose. Outside, somewhere in the distance, laughter echoes, high, sharp, careless. The voices of Rome's citizens enjoying another evening of wine, oysters, and gossip under oil lamps that burn longer than your strength ever will. They don't think of you. They never do.
The door opens before the sun fully rises. You feel the cold first. The morning air slips into the barracks like a thief. The oil lamps flicker. The rats scurry back into cracks they call home. Boots on stone, chains dragging, the quiet rhythm of Rome reminding you that your time has arrived. The lanista doesn't bother to speak. His glance is enough. You rise. Your joints crack like brittle wood. The others rise too, a line of tired, hungry men pulled from sleep like condemned animals from cages. You follow. The narrow corridor winds upward, each turn tightening around your ribs. You hear muffled voices ahead, the low chatter of attendants preparing the arena for today's amusements. The smell of blood reaches you before the light does. Old blood, dry, baked into the stone. It never fully leaves. Rome's heartbeat smells of iron. You step into the holding chamber beneath the arena. Here, the ceiling is higher, but the walls are still close. Shadows cling to the corners like old ghosts. An attendant waits with your gear. The armor isn't new. It never is. You slide the worn leather harness across your chest. The straps creak. The metal plates sit awkwardly against your ribs, one slightly dented where another man took a blow before you. The helmet is heavier than you remember. The iron reeks faintly of sweat and mold. You pull it over your head, the narrow eye slits framing your world into thin strips of light. Inside the helmet, your breath bounces back against your cheeks, warm and sour. The sword is placed in your hand, a gladius, short, wide, heavier near the tip, efficient. It feels cold, like holding someone else's life. Beside you, the Gaul tightens his own straps. His mouth twitches, but he says nothing. No one speaks now. Words serve no purpose here. A low drum beat begins above, slow, steady, like a distant pulse. The crowd is already gathering. You can hear them, laughing, calling out, placing wagers. They are eager. They always are. The gate ahead remains closed, thick wooden games reinforced with iron bands. Beyond it, the sand waits, warm under the morning sun, clean for now, soon to be stained again. You inhale slowly through your nose, feeling the familiar weight settled into your chest, that strange mixture of dread and calm. Your heart beats faster, but your hands remain steady. This is survival. One of the trainers murmurs a final instruction. His voice is low, soft, almost tender, like someone feeding a condemned man his last meal. Stay alive long enough to make them cheer. That's all they want. You nod. The gate creaks open. Light floods in, blinding at first. The sun is high now, glaring down like an indifferent god. You step forward. The heat hits your face instantly, baking the sweat beneath your armor into your skin. The crowd rises like a living wall of noise. They shout. They laugh. They point. Some hold banners. Others sip watered wine and gossip over your odds. You don't look at them. You look at the sand. The sand is your world now. The other fighters spread out across the arena, each man suddenly alone, though you all share the same fate. Your opponent stands across from you, a man from Numidia, taller than you by a head, his skin glistening under the sun. His eyes meet yours, not with hatred, but with something worse, understanding. He doesn't want this either, but you both want to live. The horn blows. The crowd quiets for a moment, that strange, sharp silence right before violence begins. You grip the sword tighter. Your feet shift slightly in the sand, feeling for traction. The Numidian steps forward. His blade glints. His breathing is steady. You circle each other, slow, cautious. The world narrows into this moment, the sweat dripping down your spine, the dry heat in your mouth, the faint metallic buzz in your ears from too little food, too little sleep. The first clash comes quickly, a quick testing strike that glances off your shield. The crowd cheers, hungry for more. You counter, swinging low, feeling this satisfying thud as your blade strikes against his guard. He grunts. You step back. The sand shifts under your feet like loose bones. Time stretches thin. The crowd blurs into a wall of sound. Faces blend into nothing. It is only you, him, the sand, the sun, and death waiting politely nearby. Your arms burn. The weight of the shield pulls at your shoulder. He lunges. You sidestep barely. His blade whistles past your ribs, close enough to feel the air move. You answer with a sharp jab. Metal bites flush this time, shallow but enough. Blood beads along his thigh, dark and thick. The crowd roars. You taste the iron in your mouth, though you're not bleeding, not yet. The Numidian stumbles slightly, shifting weight to his uninjured leg. His breathing grows louder. You press forward now, slow, patient, not because you're faster, not because you're stronger,
because you are too tired to waste energy. Your sword moves like an extension of your hunger. Short, brutal, precise. The next strike lands deeper.
The shadows swallow you again as you step back beneath the arena. The crowd still roars above, but now it's for someone else. Another man's fight. Another moment of violence for Rome to feast upon. You barely hear them. Your ears ring with the leftover hum of adrenaline, that strange emptiness after violence, where your body feels weightless and impossibly heavy all at once. The attendants don't look at you. They rarely do. To them, you are another moving piece of meat, not worth eye contact until you stop moving.
The night is always the hardest part. Not because of the fear. Fear is familiar now. You've worn it like a cloak for too long to feel its teeth. No, the nights are hard because of the quiet. When the noise dies, your mind wakes. The barracks breathe in tired unison, shallow, ragged breaths. Men shifting, muttering, coughing softly into the stale air. The faint scratching of rats echoes like whispers in the stone corners. And beneath it all, that strange hum inside your own head, the silent pull of old memories. You once had a name, a different one. A wife. She braided her hair into long coils that smelled faintly of olives. You can almost feel her fingers brushing against your cheek. She laughed softly when you cursed the dry winds that cracked your lips during the harvest. And you have a son, a small boy who carried a wooden sword as he followed you through the village, mimicking your every move, pretending to fight invisible enemies. You hadn't been a soldier then, just a farmer, a man who grew barley, who argued over debts, who hoped for steady rains and mild summers. But Rome has a long reach. Taxes rise, storms ruin crops, a debt left unpaid becomes a sentence. You were sold. Your wife's face blurs now in your mind. The harder you try to hold it, the more it fades, like smoke slipping through your fingers. You open your eyes again. The barracks ceiling stares back, low and damp. The Gaul shifts on the straw beside you. Can't sleep? He whispers. You shake your head. Can you? He smiles in the dark. Not since I got here. You both fall into silence again, comfortable in its emptiness. A few bunks away, the young recruit with the bleeding shoulder moans softly in his sleep. His breath rattles. His body fights harder than his mind ever could. The Gaul sighs. He won't last. You nod. No. It's not cruel, just true. Truth here is never gentle. The oil lamp flickers weakly, its flame dancing against the dark stone walls. Shadows ripple like liquid. The Gaul speaks again, his voice low and distant. Do you think they remember us, out there? You don't need to ask who he means. The ones you left behind, the ones you lost. You take a long breath, letting the damp air fill your lungs. Maybe. But you don't believe it. Not really. Rome swallows people whole. Not just their bodies, but their names, their histories, their voices. Here in this place, you are no one. A number, a spectacle, a brief gasp from the crowd. The Gaul chuckles dryly. At least they feed us. You smile faintly, if you can call this food. He shifts again, wincing as his bruised ribs protest. You ever wonder what the crowd sees when they look at us? I think about it. I've seen their faces from the sand, wide eyes, open mouths, flushed cheeks. They cheer for our blood like children laughing at spilled wine. They see animals, you say softly. Wild animals wearing helmets. They see something they are too afraid to become. He nods. They cheer because they know it's not them. The conversation drifts into silence again, but now it hangs heavier in the air. The boy coughs once more, his breathing wet and broken. The medicus will not waste medicine on him. There's too little to go around. And besides, the lanista already knows where to find more recruits. Rome never runs out of broken men to buy. Your stomach growls softly. You ignore it. Hunger is its own kind of companion now. Familiar. Predictable. The lamp sputters, casting brief flashes of shadow across the sleeping forms around you. Men twisted in strange shapes,
trying to find some small corner of comfort on thin mats and broken dreams. You watch the shadows. They remind you of the arena crowds, shifting, flickering, always moving but never reaching you. In a way, the shadows are kinder than the people above. The Gaul speaks again, his voice almost a whisper now. Do you think, if I die tomorrow, I hope it's quick? You nod. Better that way. Neither of you says the other truth out loud. Many deaths here are not quick. The sand remembers every scream. You close your eyes again, letting the rhythm of the barracks fill your ears, the distant rumble of carts rolling through Rome's streets above, the faint splash of filthy water dumped into the gutters. The world outside moves forward as if none of you exist. You wonder if your wife remarried, if your son grew tall, if they even speak your name anymore. Perhaps they tell stories of you. Perhaps not.
Morning arrives without invitation. There is no soft light here, no gentle warmth creeping across your skin, only the heavy scrape of the barracks door pulling open, the creak of chains, the cold shuffle of sandals on stone. Another day, another coin dropped into Rome's endless appetite. The lanista steps in, voice sharp but unhurried. Up! You rise, joints stiff from the night. The straw clings to your back. The cuts on your arms sting where the cloth rubs them raw again. The Gaul sits up beside you. His swollen eye has improved little. He presses 2 fingers gently against the bruise, testing it like a fruit left too long in the sun. I dreamed I was home, he says flatly. But the goats were wearing helmets. You huff out a soft breath, as close to a laugh as the morning allows. The young boy, the one with the bleeding shoulder, does not rise. His breath rattles faintly. His skin has grown pale, lips dry and cracked. The medicus crouches beside him, lifting one eyelid briefly, feeling for a pulse. He exhales through his nose and waves for 2 slaves. They lift the boy with practiced care, not gentle, but efficient. His limp arms sway like a rag doll. He won't return. The Gaul watches them carry him away. He doesn't speak, neither do you. There is nothing new about death here, only repetition. The barracks empties, feet shuffling through the dim corridors, following the familiar path toward the training yard. The sun waits above, indifferent, as always. The sand is dry today, freshly raked but already marked with old stains. 1,000 fights leave their trace, no matter how many times the workers smooth it over. You join the line, falling into formation. The doctor stands before you, eyes scanning the group. He notices the empty space where the boy once stood. He doesn't comment. The missing are as common as the living. Today, he begins, the officials observe new recruits. You will show them your discipline. You will not embarrass me. His gaze lingers a moment longer on the weaker men, the newcomers still soft in the shoulders, still unsure of how to hold the weight of a gladius without trembling. The drills begin. Swing, block, thrust, step. Your muscles protest, but your body obeys. The rhythm offers a strange comfort now, predictable, familiar. The blade feels like an extension of your hunger. You watch the new men out of the corner of your eye. One struggles to lift his shield high enough. Another stumbles as his partner swings too hard. The doctore's whip snaps through the air, not to punish this time, but as warning. You shame yourselves, he growls. The young recruits adjust their stances, faces flushed with fear. You remember being one of them once. The panic, the dizziness, the sick ache in your stomach as your hands failed to obey your mind. Fear makes men clumsy long before pain does. The Gaul shifts beside you, his movements efficient, deliberate. Every step saves energy. Every swing is controlled. You fight not for pride, not for spectacle. You fight because repetition keeps you breathing. The sun rises higher. The sand grows hotter beneath your feet, baking old blood into the air. The stink of sweat, oil, and fear thickens like soup left too long in a pot. The officials watch from the shaded platform above. Senators, merchants, and their well-fed wives. They sip watered wine. They whisper. They point. Your faces are meaningless to them. They only see muscle, posture, promise. You are cattle to them. Currency. The drills continue. The new recruits tire quickly. One drops his sword, panting, his face pale. The doctor moves swiftly, grabbing him by the back of his neck and forcing him upright. "Hold it or die with it," he hisses. "There is no middle." The recruit stares, wide-eyed, nodding rapidly. The whip snaps again. Your legs burn, your arms shake, sweat stings your eyes. But you continue, because you must, because every swing buys another breath. The training ends only when the horn sounds, long and low, like the belly of Rome itself groaning for more. You drop your arms, letting the sword dangle for a moment as your chest heaves. The ache in your shoulders pulses like a second heartbeat. The Gaul spits into the sand, glancing upward. "Look at them," he mutters softly. "Fat bellies judging thin bodies." You follow his gaze. The senators laugh behind silk fans, safe beneath awnings shielding them from the sun. Their servants fan them, pour their wine, fill their plates with fresh figs. You wonder what stories they'll tell tonight, how they'll speak of the promising new recruits they watched today, how they'll place wagers over whose death might entertain them best. The lanista approaches, voice oily as ever. "They like you," he says. Morning arrives without invitation. There is no soft light here, no gentle warmth creeping across your skin, only the heavy scrape of the barracks door pulling open, the creak of chains, the cold shuffle of sandals on stone. Another day. Another coin dropped into Rome's endless appetite. The lanista steps in, voice sharp but unhurried. Up! You rise, joints stiff from the night. The straw clings to your back. The cuts on your arms sting where the cloth rubs them raw again. The Gaul sits up beside you. His swollen eye has improved little. He presses 2 fingers gently against the bruise, testing it like a fruit left too long in the sun. I dreamed I was home, he says flatly, but the goats were wearing helmets. You huff out a soft breath, as close to a laugh as the morning allows. The young boy, the one with the bleeding shoulder, does not rise. His breath rattles faintly. His skin has grown pale, lips dry and cracked. The medicus crouches beside him, lifting one eyelid briefly, feeling for a pulse. He exhales through his nose and waves for 2 slaves. They lift the boy with practiced care, not gentle, but efficient. His limp arms sway like a rag doll. He won't return. The Gaul watches them carry him away. He doesn't speak, neither do you. There is nothing new about death here, only repetition. The barracks empties, feet shuffling through the dim corridors, following the familiar path toward the training yard. The sun waits above, indifferent, as always. The sand is dry today, freshly raked but already marked with old stains. 1,000 fights leave their trace, no matter how many times the workers smooth it over. You join the line, falling into formation. The doctor stands before you, eyes scanning the group. He notices the empty space where the boy once stood. He doesn't comment. The missing are as common as the living. Today, he begins, the officials observe new recruits. You will show them your discipline. You will not embarrass me. His gaze lingers a moment longer on the weaker men, the newcomers still soft in the shoulders, still unsure of how to hold the weight of a gladius without trembling. The drills begin. Swing, block, thrust, step. Your muscles protest, but your body obeys. The rhythm offers a strange comfort now, predictable, familiar. The blade feels like an extension of your hunger. You watch the new men out of the corner of your eye. One struggles to lift his shield high enough. Another stumbles as his partner swings too hard. The doctore's whip snaps through the air, not to punish this time, but as warning. You shame yourselves, he growls. The young recruits adjust their stances, faces flushed with fear. You remember being one of them once. The panic, the dizziness, the sick ache in your stomach as your hands failed to obey your mind. Fear makes men clumsy long before pain does. The Gaul shifts beside you, his movements efficient, deliberate. Every step saves energy. Every swing is controlled. You fight not for pride, not for spectacle. You fight because repetition keeps you breathing. The sun rises higher. The sand grows hotter beneath your feet, baking old blood into the air. The stink of sweat, oil, and fear thickens like soup left too long in a pot. The officials watch from the shaded platform above. Senators, merchants, and their well-fed wives. They sip watered wine, they whisper, they point. Your faces are meaningless to them. They only see muscle, posture, promise. You are cattle to them, currency. The drills continue. The new recruits tire quickly. One drops his sword, panting, his face pale. The doctore moves swiftly, grabbing him by the back of his neck and forcing him upright. Hold it or die with it, he hisses. There is no middle. The recruit stares, wide-eyed, nodding rapidly. The whip snaps again. Your legs burn,
Your arms shake. Sweat stings your eyes. But you continue. Because you must. Because every swing buys another breath. The training ends only when the horn sounds, long and low, like the belly of Rome itself groaning for more. You drop your arms, letting the sword dangle for a moment as your chest heaves. The ache in your shoulders pulses like a second heartbeat. The Gaul spits into the sand, glancing upward. "Look at them," he mutters softly. "Fat bellies judging thin bodies." You follow his gaze. The senators laugh behind silk fans, safe beneath awnings shielding them from the sun. Their servants fan them, pour their wine, fill their plates with fresh figs. You wonder what stories they'll tell tonight, how they'll speak of the promising new recruits they watched today, how they'll place wagers over whose death might entertain them best. The lanista approaches, voice oily as ever. "They like you," he says.
Night again. The oil lamps burn lower now, tiny flickering islands of light floating in the sea of shadows. The barracks smells thicker than usual, a mixture of sweat, mold, damp straw, and something older, deeper. You lie still, staring upward, watching the ceiling weep tiny drops of moisture that gather and fall like tired tears. Around you, the others breathe, snore, murmur. Rats shuffle under bunks. The Gaul's voice breaks the quiet, barely a whisper. "Do you think any of them out there even remember who fought yesterday?" You don't answer right away. The answer is too easy. No. He sighs. No. It isn't bitterness. It's fact. The crowd forgets quickly. That's why Rome always needs more blood, more faces, more fights. The senators wager over your lives with the same excitement they show for dice games. Names blur. Only the screams remain memorable. You close your eyes, but the memories come anyway. The first man you killed, you still see his eyes sometimes. The way he froze for half a heartbeat as your blade opened his stomach. That look of disbelief, of betrayal. It was never hatred between you, only survival. The crowd roared that day, the way they always do. You wonder if that man had a family too, if someone still waits for him somewhere, not knowing where he fell, or if Rome simply erased him, like so many others. The Gaul shifts again. His breathing rattles softly. I sometimes wonder if anyone beyond these walls remembers any of us. You glance toward him in the dim light. You mean out there? He nods faintly. The gods, the spirits, anyone. You let the silence settle between you again, thick and slow. Rome honors its dead, but only the right kind of dead. The generals, the senators, the men whose faces are carved into marble and whose names stain the pages of scrolls. Men like you? No statues, no songs, just forgotten blood soaking into the sand. You shift on the straw, feeling the fresh scab on your arm tug as you move. Maybe the sand remembers. You murmur. The sand holds every drop of blood we leave behind. The Gaul breathes out a dry chuckle. Then the sand must be very heavy by now. You both fall quiet again. A young recruit coughs softly in the far corner. Another boy Rome will chew through before long. His hands still tremble when he holds a sword. His eyes still flinch at the whistle of a blade. You wonder how long he has left. The barracks door creaks open suddenly, breaking the quiet. The medicus slips in, carrying a clay jar.
His thin face glistens in the lamplight. He moves to one of the bunks where another man lies groaning softly, an older gladiator whose leg was shattered in the last bout. The medicus pours a bitter-smelling liquid into the man's mouth. The man drinks greedily, wincing, then slumps back, his breathing slowing as the mixture drags him towards sleep or something deeper. He murmurs to himself as he wraps fresh cloth around the broken limb. His fingers move quickly, expertly. He's done this many times. Too many. You watch him for a while. His quiet efficiency somehow more unsettling than the noise of battle. He finishes, wipes his hands on a rag, and moves back toward the door. His sandals scrape softly against the stone. Before he leaves, he glances toward you and the Gaul. His eyes hold a strange sadness, or perhaps just weariness. "Rest while you can," he says softly. "Tomorrow is always hungry." The door closes again. The silence thickens. The Gaul exhales slowly. "Tomorrow is always hungry," he repeats. That's Rome's only prayer. You stare up into the flickering shadows once more. The sand waits. The crowd waits. And somewhere above, Rome feasts. Wine, oysters, laughter, the bright clinking of goblets filled with sweet wine, the dull roar of pleasure that never quite reaches you down here. You can almost hear them, the careless conversations, the smug laughter. They speak of you only when you bleed, when you win briefly, when you die, preferably. But here in the dark, after the sand has cooled, you are no one. Just another body waiting for the next sunrise. The Gaul's voice drifts back again, softer now, almost distant. Do you miss your old life? The question hangs there, floating like a feather in the stale air. You hesitate before answering. I try not to. But you do. Of course you do. The smell of fresh bread in the mornings, the taste of olives still warm from the sun, the sound of your son's bare feet chasing chickens across the yard. You bite down gently on the inside of your cheek, grounding yourself back into this present, into this stone cell of breathing ghosts. Dreaming of what we lost won't help us here, you finally say.
The next morning arrives heavy. You feel it in your bones before you fully wake, that dull ache inside your joints, like cold water seeping into cracks that never quite close. The door creaks open again. The same routine, the same voice. Up! But today, the air feels different, heavier, tense. The barracks stirs slowly, men rising with careful movements. You sit up, glancing around. You feel it too, the unease spreading quietly like smoke. The Gaul shifts beside you, rubbing his swollen ribs. He notices it as well. His voice is low. Someone's missing. You scan the bunks. He's right. One of the newer recruits, the wiry man from Thrace, is gone. His bedding sits empty, the straw scattered where he once slept. No one speaks it aloud, but everyone knows what it means. Escape. Or at least the attempt. The lanista enters now, slower than usual. His lips are tight, his eyes sharper. The men straighten automatically. Fear makes posture perfect. He surveys the room, his gaze pausing on the empty bunk. This one thought himself clever. He chose to forget his place. His tone is calm, too calm. That's the dangerous kind. You hold your breath, waiting for what comes next. 2 guards enter behind him, dragging the missing man between them, or what's left of him. His face is bruised and swollen, his tunic soaked with blood. One leg drags behind him like a broken branch. His lips move, trying to form words, but nothing comes. The guards drop him in the center of the barracks like discarded meat. The lanista steps closer, speaking softly, as if explaining a simple rule to children. There is no escape. There is no freedom. You belong to Rome. He turns slowly, letting his eyes fall on each of you in turn. You breathe because Rome allows it. You fight because Rome demands it. And when you forget this, his boot nudges the broken man's shoulder, Rome reminds you. The room holds its breath. You feel your jaw tighten, your hands curling into fists in your lap, but you keep your head low. The Gaul whispers under his breath, "Foolish man." You don't answer. You both know he wasn't foolish, only desperate. The guards drag the man away again. The door closes behind them. The silence inside the barracks hums like a drumbeat inside your chest. No one moves. The medicus enters quietly a few moments later, as if this is all routine. He carries a small jar of ointment, tending to one of the wounded from yesterday's drills. No one speaks to him. No one needs to. This is Rome's way. The training yard waits again. You march out under the same rising sun, your legs heavy, your stomach hollow. The drills begin. Swing, block, thrust, step. The rhythm continues, but the air feels thinner today. The newer recruits steal glances at each other between movements. Their hands tremble more than usual. Their swings come faster, too fast, as if speed can replace skill. The doctoree notices everything. He barks orders, corrects stances, snaps the whip when panic spills into clumsiness. The sand swallows every drop of sweat like it always does. The officials watch from above. Their eyes graze over you like buyers at a market inspecting livestock. They speak in soft voices as they sip wine, already discussing who might make for a good match next week, whose death might please the crowd. Your arms burn, your legs shake, but you keep moving, because there is no escape. Not really. The Gaul grunts beside you, catching your eye briefly during a break between drills. Rome teaches fast, he mutters. I wipe sweat from my brow, or kills slow. The horn blows again. Training ends. You stand in line as water is passed around. The jug feels lighter each day, or maybe your thirst simply grows heavier. You drink, savoring each warm, bitter swallow. The water tastes faintly of clay and old iron. Back in the barracks, the mood remains silent. Men clean their gear quietly. No laughter, no chatter.
Only the soft sounds of cloth against metal, of breathing, of exhaustion wrapping around tired bodies like a heavy blanket. The space where the Thracian once slept remains empty. No one dares take it yet, as if filling that space too soon might invite Rome's attention. The Gaul sits on his straw mat, unwrapping the cloth from his bruised ribs. The skin beneath is mottled purple and yellow. He speaks after a while, his voice flat. They break one to remind the rest. You nod. They don't need to break all of us, just enough. He leans his head back against the damp wall. The oil lamps flicker above, their thin flames swaying in the draft. Outside, the city murmurs, faint echoes of carts rumbling, voices rising and falling like distant waves. Rome never sleeps. Not really. The crowd will forget the Thracian by tomorrow. His name already dissolves into dust into the air. But down here you carry him. You carry all of them. Every man whose blood darkened the sand, every scream that disappeared into cheering, every eye that froze wide in that final moment when survival slipped away. The barracks breathes again, soft and tired. The rats scurry back into the walls. The oil lamps shrink lower. The Gaul speaks one last time before sleep takes him. One day this will all end, he whispers. You close your eyes. Yes, you whisper back, one way or another. The sand waits, the sword waits, and Rome remains.
The morning arrives with something different. A murmur. A low current humming through the barracks before the lanista even steps inside. The men shift on their straw, whispering in cautious voices. Even the rats seem more active, scurrying along the walls like they sense a change in the air. The Gaul leans toward you, voice low. Did you hear? You shake your head. What? He glances toward the others. The games. Special matches. High officials visiting. Important ones. You breathe out slowly. Important officials meant something worse than usual. Higher stakes. More eyes. More blood. The door opens. The lanista enters with his usual calm venom, but his smile today is sharper, almost pleased. Good news, my sons, he announces. Tomorrow, a special day. The Gaines will honor a visiting consul. He pauses, letting the weight of those words hang over the room. A grand spectacle, he continues, pacing slowly. Many will watch. The rewards, significant. He stops before the line of weary faces. A few may even win freedom. The word hangs there, heavy. Freedom. It's the sharpest bait Rome offers, the cruelest trick. Some men glance up, hope flickering behind hollow eyes. Others stare at the ground, unmoved, as if afraid even to hope. The Gaul chuckles dryly beside you. Freedom. That word again. You say nothing. The word tastes bitter in your mouth. The lanista continues. Train well today. Impress tomorrow. The right eyes may see your worth. Then he turns, exiting with his usual parade of guards behind him. The moment he's gone, the whispering resumes. Louder now. Faster. Men who barely spoke before now share quick words, soft hopes. The younger recruits especially, their faces lighting with fragile eagerness. Freedom, one of them whispers. It happens. I've heard of it. Another nods. There was one last year, a Thracian. He won 5 matches, they say, but his release. You close your eyes briefly. You've heard these stories before. Always someone who escaped. Always somewhere else. Always someone else. The Gaul leans close again. They don't release men like us.
Not really. You glance toward him. No. Freedom is a story Rome sells to keep you obedient. A distant shining coin dangled just high enough to make you keep reaching. Because reaching keeps you alive. The training yard waits again. The drills today feel heavier, sharper. The tension hums through every movement. Swing, block, thrust, step. The newer men push themselves harder, eyes glancing toward the platform where the officials sit watching. The senators sip their wine, fat fingers curling around polished goblets as they murmur judgments over sweating bodies. You feel your arms burning faster today. The added weight of hope drags at your shoulders. The Gaul fights with brutal precision, efficient, controlled. His face is stone. Don't let them see you reach too hard, he mutters under his breath as your drills bring you close. Desperate men bleed faster. You nod. He's right. Rome smells desperation like blood, and it loves both. The Doctore watches closely today, barking sharper corrections. Every stumble draws his whip faster, every hesitation punished with fierce glares. The officials above whisper, watching you all like merchants at an auction. Your muscles scream as the hours drag on. The sand grows hotter beneath your feet. Sweat drips into your eyes, stinging. The horn finally sounds. Training ends. You lower your sword, breathing heavy, chest heaving. The world swims faintly before your eyes. Hunger sharpens everything now. Water is passed around, thinner than usual. Your lips barely wet after the jug moves on. The lanista appears again near the platform, exchanging soft words with one of the visiting officials. Both glance your way briefly. The Gaul watches them. They measured us like beasts before slaughter. You wipe sweat from your brow. Because that's what we are. The barracks feels colder that evening. Not because of the air, but because of what tomorrow brings. The younger recruits whisper long after the lamps dim. Tomorrow, one says, I will fight hard. I will show them. Maybe they'll see my worth. Another nods quickly. I heard the consul himself chooses some. If you please him. The words hang there. Fragile. Childish. The Gaul's voice cut softly through the dark. And if you fail to please him? The younger men fall quiet again. You stare at the ceiling, watching the weak flame of the oil lamp flicker in the damp air. Freedom. You've carried that word like a rock in your gut since the first day they chained you here. They feed it to you like a small meal, just enough to keep you breathing. You remember the first time they said it, the way your heart clenched, the way your mind foolishly imagined open fields, warm bread, your wife's voice.
The morning arrives thick with heat. Even before the sun fully rises, the air inside the barracks feels heavier than usual, dense, like wet cloth pressed against your face. No one speaks. Not today. The younger recruits sit in silent clusters, sharpening blades, tightening worn leather straps, some whispering silent prayers under their breath. Their faces pale, stretched thin between hope and dread. The Gaul sits quietly beside you, rubbing his swollen knuckles. His voice comes low, steady. Big crowd today. You nod once. Important men like blood. The door creaks open. The lanista steps inside,
flanked by guards. His smile is wide, oily. "The consul has arrived," he announces. "The games begin soon." He paces slowly, savoring the weight of his words. "You are fortunate. The eyes of Rome are upon you today. The emperor's advisors are watching, perhaps even the emperor himself." His voice softens. "Fight well, and you may find your reward." The word again, reward, meaning freedom for those desperate enough to believe it. You stare at the ground, jaw tight. The others sit straighter, soaking in the illusion. Some eyes shine with trembling hope. The lanista claps his hands. "Prepare." The room shifts into quiet movement. Men strapping armor, adjusting helmets, tying greaves. The soft clink of metal mixes with shallow breaths. Your own hands move by instinct now. The leather straps bite into your forearm as you tighten them. The helmet's weight settles onto your head like a familiar cage. The gladius waits, cold in your grip. Heavy, steady. The Gaul speaks again as he tightens his chest plate. "The ones who hope hardest die quickest." You nod faintly. Hope dulls the edge. The holding chamber beneath the arena hums with muffled noise above. The crowd has gathered early. You hear the higher-pitched voices of women, the low rumble of senators, the sharp bursts of laughter as wagers are placed. The consul himself sits high above in a shaded box, surrounded by silk cushions, fanned by servants. He watches with mild amusement, as one watches an animal pen being prepared. The drumbeats begin. Slow, steady. The rhythm pulses through your chest. The gates creak open. Light floods in, bright and sharp. The roar of the crowd spills into the chamber like a wave breaking against stone. You step forward. The sand blazes under the high sun, warm beneath your sandals. You blink against the light, your eyes adjusting as the noise rises around you. Thousands of faces blur together, open mouths, shining teeth, colorful fabrics swaying like flags. The announcer's voice booms above, calling names, most of them wrong. The crowd doesn't care. Names are irrelevant here. You form ranks beside the other fighters, lined up like cattle before the slaughter. The consul leans forward in his seat, inspecting his entertainment. He feels your gaze pass over you, not like a man seeing another man, but like a butcher examining cuts of meat. The horn blows again. The first matches begin. The newer recruits are sent forward first. Young men barely seasoned, hungry for attention. You stand back, watching as swords clash beneath the rising cheers. One young recruit swings too wide, his shield slipping. The opponent's blade finds his side. The boy staggers, falling to one knee. The crowd roars. The consul nods, smiling faintly. The officials gesture for the fight to continue. The opponent circles, quick and hungry, while the wounded boy struggles to rise.
Drips into your eyes, burning. The sand drinks more blood.
You turn, stepping slowly back toward the gates. The crowd already shifts its attention toward the next match. You are forgotten again. For now, you are still breathing. And in Rome, that is enough.
The gates close behind you. The noise above fades into a distant hum, still loud, but no longer personal. The crowd has already moved on. Their cheers belong now to the next men bleeding in the sand. You stand for a moment in the cool darkness beneath the arena, your body still vibrating with the aftershock of survival. Your shoulders ache, your ribs burn with each breath, sweat drips from your hair into your eyes. An attendant pulls your helmet off with a quick, practiced tug. The air on your face feels raw, almost painful. The medicist steps forward without a word. His thin fingers trace along your arm, checking for deeper wounds. A shallow cut near your elbow, another along your side. Minor. He dabs them with a rag soaked in sour vinegar. The sting bites deep, but you don't flinch. Flinching would be wasted energy. Lucky, the medicus mutters softly, almost to himself. Again. You nod, wordless. The Gaul waits nearby, his arms crossed, watching as your wounds are wrapped. You move like an old man, he says with a faint smirk. I feel like one, you answer, voice dry. The medicus moves on to the next fighter. The lanista approaches, his sandals scraping across the stone. His smile is wide today, sickly sweet, like spoiled fruit. Well done, he says, voice low, smooth. The consul noticed you. You say nothing. You fought clean. The crowd enjoyed it. And most importantly, you lived. His eyes narrow slightly, as if measuring you. Perhaps there is hope for you after all. The word again. Hope. Dangling like bait. You meet his gaze, but say nothing. There is nothing to say. He leans in a little closer. The consul inquired about you. You feel a cold weight settle in your stomach. Attention in Rome is rarely a blessing. Rest tonight, the lanista says. You may be called again soon. A special match. He pats your shoulder as if you're a favorite pet, then turns and disappears into the shadows. The Gaul watches him go, his face tight. A special match, he mutters. That means more important men watching, bigger wages, sharper swords. You sit heavily on the stone bench, feeling your muscles protest. The cloth around your ribs pulls tight as you breathe. The others filter into the chamber one by one, some limping, some carried, some not returning at all. The room fills with the usual sounds, the dripping of water, the soft groans of wounded men, the rustle of rats in the corners. The young recruits, those who survived, gather together again, whispering. Their eyes shine brighter tonight. They think survival means progress. They think survival means freedom drawing closer. The Gaul sits beside you on the bench, his voice soft. They don't understand yet. No, not yet. He scratches his beard, glancing around. The better you fight, the more Rome notices, and the more Rome notices. He lets the sentence trail off. You finish it for him. The more Rome owns you. He nods slowly. The game never changes, only the weight of the chains. You close your eyes, letting the noise of the chamber swirl around you. The weight of attention presses heavier than the weight of any armor. You remember men who rose quickly, favorites of the crowd, praised by officials. Their names were known. Their matches grew grander and bloodier. The higher you climb, the sharper the blade waiting to cut you down. You open your eyes again, staring at the damp ceiling. The oil lamps flickered gently, casting long, thin shadows that twitch and sway like nervous hands. The medicus hums softly to himself as he binds fresh wounds. The air tastes of old sweat and vinegar. The younger recruits keep talking. "Did you see how the consul smiled?" one whispers. "He pointed at me. I know he did." Another nods eagerly. "I heard they sometimes grant freedom after matches like this." The word circles again. Freedom. A sharp coin tossed into a pit of starving men. You sit quietly, letting them speak. There is no value in stealing hope from them too soon. Rome will do that soon enough. The Gaul shifts beside you. "Tomorrow they'll clean the sand," he says flatly, "and by the next fight no one will remember who bled here today." You nod. The sand always drinks, but never speaks. The door to the barracks creaks open again. You rise slowly, your legs heavy, your breath shallow. The cloth wrapped around your cuts already damp with sweat. The walk back to the barracks feels longer tonight, the weight pressing against your chest heavier than usual. The younger men follow behind, still whispering, still.
Night comes like a slow suffocation. You lie awake on the damp straw, your muscles twitching beneath layers of bruises and half-healed wounds. The air hangs thick with sweat, mold, and the sour stench of vinegar-soaked bandages. The Gaul breathes heavily beside you. His wrapped arm glistens faintly in the weak flicker of oil lamp light. Neither of you speaks for a long time. There is nothing new to say. The younger recruits have gone quiet too. Even they feel it now, the weight pressing against the walls, the closing hand of Rome. The illusion of freedom flickers dimmer with each passing day. You stare at the ceiling, counting the droplets of moisture forming in the cracks. One breaks loose, falling with a soft plink onto the stone beside your head. The Gaul finally speaks. His voice is lower than usual. "Sometimes I wonder if it would have been better to die early." You turn your head slightly toward him but say nothing. He continues, almost like a man speaking to himself. "The ones who die quickly don't live long enough to feel this weight. They bleed, they fall, and it's over. You close your eyes, but we endure." His laugh is short, bitter. Is this endurance or just slower dying? You let the silence answer for you. The barracks feels colder tonight, not from the air, but from the emptiness left behind by those who don't return. The bunks stay vacant longer now. Rome replaces men, but not instantly. The gaps remain like missing teeth. You listen to the soft scurrying of rats in the corners. They are the true survivors here. They never fight. They only wait. The Gaul speaks again, quieter this time. "I remember my farm, the hills, the trees." His words drift like smoke in the damp air. "I remember the smell of wet grass after rain, my daughter's hair, the way she would fall asleep on my chest." You feel something pull in your chest, that familiar ache that lives beneath your ribs. You picture your own son's face, though now it's more imagined than remembered. The edges blur each time you try to hold the image still. The longer you survive, the more the past fades. Rome robs you twice, first your freedom, then your memory. The oil lamp sputters. The shadows twitch on the stone walls like thin, grasping fingers. The Gaul exhales slowly. "Do you still pray?" You shake your head. "No gods here." He nods faintly. "Perhaps that's why Rome thrives. No gods, only hunger."
You breathe deeply, letting the damp air fill your lungs. The aches in your body hum like quiet drums beneath your skin. Every wound carries a memory. Every scar holds a lesson. The medicus moves softly through the barracks, checking bandages, changing cloths. His face carries the permanent weariness of a man who watches slow death every day. He pauses beside you, inspecting your wrapped side. His thin fingers press gently against the cloth, feeling for warmth beneath. Infection. Always a risk. Still clean, for now, he mutters. You nod faintly. He moves on. You listen to the distant hum of Rome above, faint laughter, carts rolling over stone streets, the occasional shout carried by the wind. The city never sleeps. But here, in the stone belly beneath its marble skin, sleep always feels like a gamble. The gull's voice drifts back once more, quieter still. Do you think anyone up there wonders what it feels like for us down here? You answer without hesitation. No. He breathes out a faint laugh. No, me neither. The younger recruits shift uneasily on their mats. Their whispers have stopped in recent nights. The bravado faded, the hope hollowed. They now understand what survival truly means here. The longer you live, the heavier you become. Rome does not reward endurance. It feeds on it. You stare into the flickering lamplight, feeling your own breathing slow. Tomorrow waits. It always does. The sand will be raked, the blood will be mopped, the banners will wave. The crowd will cheer, and you will stand again beneath their painted ceilings, wearing their borrowed armor, gripping their polished swords, performing for their amusement. The gull's voice drifts toward you one final time, soft as a breath. One day, they'll forget we ever existed. You close your eyes. They already have. The rats move in the dark. The oil lamp dies. And Rome breathes. Always.
The days blend now. Morning comes, you rise. The drills begin. Swing, block, thrust, step. The rhythm no longer feels like training. It feels like breathing, like blinking. The body moves while the mind drifts somewhere far beyond the sand. The Gaul stands beside you, as always, his arms still wrapped, his movements still steady. The younger recruits move too, fewer now. Their eyes are dimmer, their swings heavier. The bravado of their first days has bled out, one match at a time. The officials watch from above, though even they seem bored now. The fat senators sip wine, lazily gesturing toward favorites. You have become part of the background. Not new enough to excite, not broken enough to amuse. Survivors. Rome does not celebrate survivors. It tolerates them. The sun climbs higher, The sand grows hotter, and the sweat stings sharper. The horn blows. The drills pause. Water is passed down the line, warm, thin, bitter. You sip and pass it along, your throat barely wet. The Gaul exhales. His voice sounds thinner these days. We keep standing, but I wonder why. You wipe sweat from your brow, because falling is worse. He nods faintly. I'm not sure anymore. The medicus tends to a new recruit nearby, a boy with wide eyes and a broken wrist, his breathing short with panic. The medicus works quickly, wrapping the limb, murmuring softly. Another man who will likely not last long. You watch the boy's face. He looks at you like a man looking at his own future. You want to tell him something useful, but there's nothing useful left to say. The drills resume. The day stretches on, long and thin. By evening, you return to the barracks. The familiar stink greets you like an old enemy. Damp straw, old blood, sweat trapped in stone. The Gaul lowers himself onto his mat with a soft grunt. My bones feel heavier each night. You sit beside him. That's because they are. He allows himself a faint smile. Soon I'll sink into this stone. The younger men speak less now. They shuffle to their mats, curl into themselves, and wait for sleep. The oil lamps flicker, casting long, thin shadows that sway like nervous ghosts. You lie back, staring at the damp ceiling. The sounds are all familiar. Rats scratching, breathing, the occasional cough breaking the quiet. But the worst sound is inside your own chest, that dull hum of weight pressing against your ribs. You remember less now. Your wife's face has grown blurry. Your son's voice drifts like distant wind. The colors fade. The sounds thin. Survival here isn't just about the body. Roan rots the mind slowly. The Gaul's voice breaks the quiet. They cheer for blood. You nod softly. Always. They cheer because it isn't them. You close your eyes. Yes. The lamp sputters. The shadows dance. You feel your heart beating, slower now, heavy. Tomorrow waits. The sand waits. The sword waits. And Rome never stops.
The days no longer feel like separate days. They arrive, they pass, they leave. The sand shifts beneath your feet, though you hardly notice anymore. The sweat stings your eyes, but you don't wipe it. The drills continue, and your body moves without needing your mind. Swing, block, thrust, step. The rhythm hums beneath your skin now, not training, not effort, just existence. The Gaul moves beside you, slower these days. His shoulders sag slightly between movements. His breath catches more often, but his sword still moves when it must. The younger recruits, those who remain, have grown quieter still. Their faces carry the weight you've long grown used to. The shrinking eyes, the thin lips pressed tight, the shoulders rounded under invisible chains. The officials above hardly glance down anymore. The novelty has drained from your faces. You are not entertainment now. You are inventory. Rome has already squeezed the best applause from you. What remains is routine, maintenance. The horn blows, the drills stop. Water passes down the line again. You sip. The warm liquid tastes faintly of clay and something older. The Gaul exhales beside you, voice low. I don't feel fear anymore. You glance at him. Neither do I. He nods, eyes fixed ahead. I thought fear was what kept us alive. It was, you say. Now it's habit. He breathes again, slower this time. Habit feels heavier than fear. You let the silence answer him. The medicus moves through the line, checking bandages, replacing cloth. His hands are quick, efficient, empty of any kindness now. His face carries the same emptiness you see everywhere. No one here is saving anyone, only managing decay. The sun drops behind the walls as evening creeps back. You shuffle back toward the barracks with the others. Men moving like worn carts, rolling downhill. The damp straw greets you again. You lower yourself onto it, bones groaning quietly. The Gaul stretches beside you, staring at the dark ceiling. For a while, neither of you speak. The oil lamps burn low. The rats scurry. The breathing in the barracks forms a strange, steady rhythm, a choir of tired lungs. The Gaul finally speaks, softer than before. Do you remember their faces? You know who he means. Your families, your lives before Rome swallowed you. You close your eyes. I try to. He lets out a faint breath. Mine blur more each night. Soon I won't remember their voices, then their eyes, then nothing. You keep your eyes closed. That's what Rome wants. He doesn't reply. The oil lamp sputters. The shadows tremble on the stone walls like nervous fingers. You feel the emptiness spreading inside you like a slow, cold fog. Not grief, not anger, just hollow. The younger men whisper less now. Even their fragile hopes have faded into something softer, quieter. They've learned what survival really means here. Not strength, not skill. Only staying long enough to lose yourself. The Gaul shifts again, voice barely above a breath. You wake, but you're not sure when you fell asleep. Sleep comes differently now, not in full pieces, but in fragments. Moments of stillness stitched between heavy breaths. The air inside the barracks is thicker than usual, carrying the wet metallic stink of bodies stacked too long in one place. The Gaul's awake too, though neither of you speaks. There's no need. The door opens. The same voice calls. The same shuffling begins. You rise, joints cracking, muscles aching in that dull, familiar hum. Pain isn't sharp anymore. It's simply present, always humming somewhere beneath your ribs. The younger men move slower these days, though they still move. Their eyes remain lowered. No one talks of freedom anymore. Even hope has grown tired. The drills wait again. The sand feels cooler underfoot in the early light. The sun hasn't yet burned away the thin morning mist. The officials above are fewer now. The senators grow bored of old faces. Rome always craves fresh blood. The drills begin. Swing, block, thrust, step. Your body obeys, not out of will, but out of habit so deep it feels like breathing. The Gaul moves beside you, slower than before. His foot drags slightly on certain steps. His breathing sounds thicker. He speaks only once that morning. My hands feel distant. You glance at him. That's normal now. He doesn't reply. The medicus watches the line from the shade, arms crossed, eyes half-lidded. He knows. Everyone knows. The sand keeps swallowing sweat and blood in the same quiet rhythm. The horn blows. The drills stop. Water passes down the line. You sip, tasting the bitter clay again. The jug feels lighter than yesterday, or perhaps you're simply thirstier. You sit beside the Gaul during the short break. The shade offers little relief. The silence between you both grows heavier. Finally, he speaks, voice thin. Do you remember when we cared? You exhale softly. No. He closes his eyes for a moment. Neither do I. The medicus passes by again, checking bandages. His fingers pause briefly at your ribs, feeling beneath the cloth. Still clean, he mutters, moving on. The drills resume. The cycle continues. By evening, you return to the barracks again. The same walk, the same damn straw, the same low-ceiling sweating drops of moisture that fall like tired tears onto the stone floor. You lower yourself onto the straw, bones groaning, chest heavy. The oil lamps burn lower tonight, their flames trembling as if even they have grown tired. The Gaul lies beside you, breathing slower now. His voice is barely a breath. Sometimes, I wish they would simply send the blade. You close your eyes. But they won't. No, he whispers. They like to watch men rot first. The rats scurry in the corners. The younger men curl into themselves on their straw. No one talks anymore. The barracks has grown silent these past weeks, not from peace, but from emptiness. Even the new recruits understand now. Survival here is not victory. It is slow erasure. The Gaul's voice slips into the dark one last time. We are not men anymore. You whisper back, we are Rome's shadow. The lamp sputters, barely clinging to life. You listen to your own heartbeat, slower now, heavy. Tomorrow will come. The sand will be raked smooth again.
The sun will rise over the polished marble. The crowds will gather. The blades will shine. And you will stand again. Not because you choose to, not because you hope to, but because breathing has simply not stopped yet. And in Rome, that's all that remains. For now.
There is no beginning to this day. It arrives the way waves arrive, not as a clear edge, but as a soft, continuous weight. You wake because your body has learned no other choice. The barracks breathes around you, the same damp air, the same thin light leaking through cracks in the stone, the same distant echoes of Rome far above. The Gaul does not rise. You glance toward him. His chest rises slowly beneath the damp cloth, his skin pale now, drawn thin like paper stretched over bone. His breath rattles faintly. The medicus visited him yesterday, said little, applied new cloth, left. There is nothing more to do. The door opens, the familiar voice calls, the shuffle of bodies begins again. You rise, alone this time. The others follow, faces thinner than before, eyes duller. You walk the familiar path toward the sand, toward the sun, toward the waiting rhythm. Swing, block, thrust, step. The drills continue, but even the officials above seem half-bored now. The senators lean back in their cushioned seats, fanning themselves with silk. Rome's appetite for your suffering has softened, not from mercy, but from repetition. They have watched you for too long. You are no longer new, no longer exciting, just another shadow fading slowly beneath their marble towers. The horn blows. The drills stop. You sip the warm, bitter water, barely feeling the liquid pass your lips. The sun hangs heavy above you. The sand shimmers with heat. The medicus moves through the line again, his fingers press briefly against your ribs. His nod is barely noticeable. Still breathing. That's all he ever says now. The evening comes. You return to the barracks. The Gaul remains where you left him. You sit beside him, lowering yourself onto the straw. The rats scurry nearby, unbothered. The other men settle into their places, silent as always. The oil lamp flickers, casting thin, nervous shadows onto the damp stone walls.
The days continue, but they no longer belong to you. You move because you are still breathing, but breathing feels distant now, like something happening to someone else. The barracks is quieter than ever. Fewer men remain. The familiar faces you once fought beside, most are gone. Their bunks empty, their straw flattened but unused. The Gaul's empty place sits beside you, untouched. You do not glance toward it often. There is nothing there, just absence. You rise each morning, before the call even comes. The door opens, the voice echoes, the shuffle of feet begins. You join the line without thought. The sand greets you again. The drills begin. Swing, block, thrust, step. The blade feels lighter now, not because your strength has grown, but because you no longer care if it slips. The senators above do not watch anymore. New recruits steal their attention. New blood pulls their eyes.
You are part of the background now, the slow shadows that remind them what long survival looks like. The horn blows, the drills pause, the water tastes thinner today, almost like air. You sip, you hand it along. Even your thirst feels tired. The medicus barely glances at you anymore. His hands move quickly, replacing old cloth with new. His touch has grown mechanical. Still breathing. Always those words. Even he knows there is little left inside you worth checking. The evening returns. The damp air of the barracks clings to your skin. The same thin oil lamps flicker, casting their long, twitching shadows across the walls. You lie back onto the familiar straw. The stone beneath your spine feels colder now. The air hums with the faint scratching of rats. No voices tonight. No whispers of hope. No plans for freedom. Even the new recruits speak little now. The silence here is complete, not from peace, but from surrender. You stare at the ceiling. The old moisture gathers again in tiny beads along the cracks. A single drop falls onto your cheek. You do not wipe it away. The Gaul's voice once lived beside you in the dark. His words still float quietly in your mind. They will forget us. You whisper into the dark. They already have. Outside, somewhere far above, Rome celebrates something new tonight. Perhaps a wedding, perhaps a festival, perhaps another victory in some far province. The laughter drifts faintly through the cracks like perfume. Rome is always celebrating, always feeding. You close your eyes. The sand will be raked again tomorrow. The banners will wave. The officials will watch new faces bleed. The sun will rise. The crowd will cheer. And you will stand again. Not out of will, not out of fear. Only because you have not yet stopped. And in Rome, that is all that remains. For now.
You wake again. Not because you wish to, not because anything has changed. You wake because the body remembers movement. But today, something feels different. Not in the barracks, not in the air, not in Rome. Inside you. The heaviness is no longer something pressing against your chest. It lives deeper now. Not weight, but emptiness. Even the habit of survival feels thin. The door opens, the call comes, the shuffle begins. You rise. Your feet find the cold stone automatically. Your hands gather the worn straps of your armor. Your sword slides into your palm like an old companion who no longer speaks. The others move too, though fewer still. Their faces reflect the same hollow shape as yours. You walk the path to the sand again. The sun waits. The arena breathes. The crowd above hums with a soft murmur, but you no longer hear it as sound. It's simply part of the air, like the wind, like the dust. The officials barely glance down now. Their attention belongs to newer men, fresher faces. You were not hated. You were not loved. You were simply there. The drills begin. Swing, block, thrust, step. You move because the body moves. The blade cuts because the arm remembers how. The shield lifts because it always does. The horn sounds, the drills pause. The water comes, you sip, you pass it. You sit in the shadow, letting the weak breeze brush against your face. The Gaul's absence beside you feels heavier now than his presence ever did. You look toward the spot where he once sat. The empty straw still carries the faint imprint of his weight. The shape remains, though he does not. You whisper into the quiet, "Still breathing." The words sound strange leaving your mouth. They no longer feel like truth. The day drifts onward like smoke curling from a dying lamp. The horn sounds again. You rise. You return to the barracks. The rats greet you first. Always busy, always alive. You lower yourself onto the straw, feeling the cold stone beneath your shoulder blades. The oil lamps burn low. The shadows dance softly. You stare into the ceiling cracks, watching the old drops gather once more. For a moment, you think you hear the Gaul's voice again. "We are not men anymore." You close your eyes. "No," you whisper. "Not anymore." Above you, Rome glows. Torches lining marble streets, music floating in warm night air, laughter bouncing across the open forums. They celebrate something, as always, but you no longer care what. Your breath slows. The weight inside your chest grows lighter, but not in relief. More like a stone sinking gently through deep water. The oil lamp sputters one final time, its flame flickering against the dark. The shadows grow longer, stretching toward you. You feel your chest rise once more. Then again. Then softer. The breathing becomes thin, distant, and finally, still. The rats continue their soft movements. The oil lamp goes dark. Rome breathes above you. Always. And far below, the sand sleeps. Quiet, indifferent, full.